Mashblox is a self-feeding tool that takes kids' instincts to put everything in their mouth to give them the tools to feed themselves. They're dishwasher safe, turn them inside out to clean, you can bake in them, you can freeze in them. So covered all the practical elements, and kids just love them because they are so tactile and playful. So in 2016, I was watching a toddler chomping into an apple that he kept on dropping, bouncing, rolling in the dirt, and picking it up to eat it again. And it seemed to me that food and plaything were very much the same concept at that age, and how do we make that tendency of children to play with their food and explore the world through their mouth, but less messy and more hygienic. I had a significant personal trauma in my mid-teens that I ended up becoming obese. But having pulled out of that, I looked back at the root causes. My earliest memories of food, I was being forced to eat far more than I needed. I could see that would probably started much younger than my memories of being told to finish my plate, otherwise I wouldn't get dessert. So I was thinking, where does this behaviour of my mother's, this pressure, come from? And it's probably a scarcity mentality, which made sense at every other point in history when we didn't know where our next meal was coming from or what we'd have to do to get it. And how early does this pressure start? Probably with spoon feeding. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the infant obesity statistics all over the world, which, despite any cultural food, are now up around 24% of children are overweight or obese before 4 years old. And I was thinking that the only thing that we're really able to do about this, because the only person that knows how much they need to eat is the child themselves, is to give them the tools and the chance to develop that intuitive eating from the earliest ages through whatever mechanism is age appropriate for them. The only obesity intervention initiative that has had any success anywhere in the world has been infant self-feeding. We're working with 3 markets, primarily in the infant space, where I think we have got the biggest impact potential. We partner with university research to run longitudinal trials on the benefits of self-feeding to both short-term and long-term health outcomes. In the short term, that's fussy eating. In the long term, that is obesity prevention. So we've got a couple of comparable spaces. We've got the infant feeding accessories market, which is a little bit tricky to get a cohesive, inclusive figure on the value of. But then there's the infant wet food space, which I mentioned. I've got the bioplastic in the pipeline to reinvent the packaging for. That one's worth. The figures like climbing rapidly, but the most recent one that I saw was 58 billion. So we started out with the research partnership with the University of Canberra, where we'd negotiated pro bono pilot of our hypothesis, which was a huge win. That fell apart when research priorities changed in 2017, and that was incredibly upsetting because that was my whole foundation of my business model. How I handled that, I just jetted off to the UK and cold called a bunch of academics there that are much more experienced in this space of population health, of infant feeding behaviours, and re-established the business model with 2 universities and 3 academics. Challenges: compartmentalising my personal life. Like the whole business is my life. So it's a matter of keeping everything else in boxes. We're at an interesting point at the moment where we're developing the systems to scale. It can't be me taking a deep dive into everything anymore. So I'm doing my best to delegate systemization, and that's taken a little bit of time to bring the team up to speed with the need for and the supports that they need to help me with that. But that's coming together too. So it's quite an exciting stage. Well, we claimed 1.36% of the Canberra local market within a month of launch in 2017. Thanks. And more recently, we claimed 1.7% of the queen bee market in a day. Much smaller market, but still. The parents that really get it, or have challenges with where their kids have gone on hunger strike because they just don't want to be spoon fed. And if you think about it, it's quite an invasive thing. I wouldn't like it either. Those parents, they think it's the best thing since sliced bread. Academics have been really enthused. So as I was describing before, that they love seeing real world examples of how their research can be applied and publicised. I think that mission driven stuff is on the rise. I run into amazing people all over the place and in the most improbable situations. Like I met the son of the ex-finance director of the Australian distributor of Tommy Tippy products, which is one of my biggest multinational competitors in the infant feeding space, at a New Year's Eve party a couple of years ago. And he told me I was telling him what I did, and he was like, "Oh, that's interesting, because here's what my father does." I'm like, "That is interesting." So he's been my accountant and my closest commercial advisor for the last couple of years. I think when you approach anything with an open mind, then everything is both unexpected and not, because you don't have expectations. I think that there's a bit of a push in academia for their research to be employed in a more relevant, applicable, real-world way, and this gives them an opportunity to do that. So some of the academics that I've connected with really love that. The one that I was thinking of is our new affiliate strategy that we're about to roll out, which is collaborating with mum bloggers. I think it needs to start with what you want to achieve. It needs to be something that you're really passionate about, because this stuff, it is hard. Like, I definitely just get started. Don't wait until you feel comfortable, because it just means you've waited too long. But you need to have that core driving passion to get you over the hurdles. Some of the best advice that I received when I was early on this journey was to really get clear on my values, because they will help navigate your the difficult decisions that you have to make. I think that Mashblox has unprecedented brand positioning opportunity for this long-term research model that we're working with. I want to see that starting to achieve impact. I've just found a health business incubator that helps you measure health economics and population health benefits, and I think that would be really important to get some figures around what sort of impact and the time frame that we're likely to start turning things around, and in 20 years' time, I want Mashblox to be one of the deciding factors that people can look back and say, this is where obesity trends started to turn, because of the culture that I'm trying to promote.